You are listening to Sports Day. We're here for Red Energy, CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021 and across Tasmania for Wilson Homes. They believe in great design, so you love being home. Bruce Seaver and Sam McClure with you for the next hour. Another big hour coming up. We're just about to touch base, Beav, with Frank Panisi, the boss of the all-conquering Storm. Just having another quiet season, Beaver, just going about their business.
Indeed, they were sensational against Manly, weren't they? Giving them a right old flogging in the qualifying final. But given the result, Sammy, in the other qualifying final, it's pushed Penrith over onto Storm's side of the draw. So, of course, the Storm will play the winner of Parramatta and Penrith. You're not
saying that they might be fearing Penrith, are you, Beav?
No, but I mean, Para have given us some given us some issues in recent times, and Penrith are obviously on the home and away season the second best side. So you're going to have one of those, a preliminary final, which could easily be a grand final. It's nothing against South Sydney, of course, who beat Penrith in week 1.
Speaking of grand finals, we're also going to touch base with Grant Birchall, of course, a long-time Hawk, recently retired Brisbane Lion, to talk about, his career, also life after footy, which hasn't been going long. But let's go back and start with the Melbourne Storm. As you mentioned, Beef, through that prelim final after a 40-12 drubbing of Manly, and the mastermind behind a lot of their wins is Frank Panisi. Joins us again. G'day, Frank.
Hello, Sam. I've been called many things, a mastermind of the victory. I'm not too sure about that one, but
surely Craig, anyway. Frank. Surely Craig's given you some credit over the years.
Oh, no. Listen, Craig certainly got to come up with an enormous game plan last week. We had a big challenge of stopping Tommy Trbojevic, known as Turbo. He's the game's leading player at the moment. He's been in sensational form, just destroying teams. So the game plan was phenomenal by Craig and his coaches, and more importantly, the players executed it to perfection and got us the win.
So, Frank, how did the squad pull up? And can you also, as far as the medical report, first up, any doubt at all that Josh Addo-Carr will not play in the preliminary final? He should be cherry ripe to go after overcoming that injury?
Yeah, no, first one, Bruce, Brandon Smith was the only concern from the game. We thought he had a fractured cheekbone, but thankfully the X-rays cleared him of that on late Friday night. So he's fine. We had no other injuries coming out of the game, which is even better on top of the win. And to answer your question about Josh Addo-Carr, he is training he's fully training with the team now, and we expect him to take his place next Saturday afternoon, I should say.
And you mentioned Brandon Smith, of course, with having the week off, a bit like what Sam alluded to a moment ago. So people are looking for things to talk about, and already Brandon Smith's contract status has been coming up in the last 24 or 48 hours. But he is contracted for next year, and we know you've got the juggle going on in that hooker position along with Harry Grant, but he's going nowhere, is he?
I just saw him just walking past. He's staying next door to me, so we had a bit of a chuckle about some story that was going around. So, no, just noise outside, and I think that's probably coming from rival clubs just to create that noise. But absolutely, no. Yeah, if anything, what we're going to do at the end of the season when this is all over and we've had a bit of downtime is talk about extending him past the end of next year. So that's at the moment that's the least of our issues. We're just worried about beating either Parramatta or Penrith next Saturday afternoon and advancing to the grand final.
Sure, you got a few more things to worry about, Frank, but nice to see that sanity did prevail with the preliminary final, or the time of your preliminary final, not going directly up against the grand final of the AFL.
Oh, I thought it was a fantastic decision by the NRL, and whoever's responsible, I think there's probably plenty of people taking credit for it, but ultimately it's the best decision. And from our point of view, we would have played at midnight if we had to. It didn't really worry us. We're ready to play, but I think for the sports lovers around the country, and especially in Melbourne and Victoria, where all our supporters are, or the vast majority of them are anyway, the AFL grand final is such a big event on the calendar. This would have been crazy going head-to-head. So I think it's a very sensible decision by the NRL.
Just on that, though, Frank, why this is like the bigger issue, if you like, and maybe it's not an issue, but why does the higher-ranked qualifying final winner play their preliminary final on the Saturday as opposed to the Friday, which is what happens in the AFL, which means the higher-ranked qualifying final winner...
Bit more rest.
Yeah, gets the longer break into the grand final if successful.
Great question, that one, Bruce, and I don't know why. And probably it's not a consistent thing year in, year out, which probably makes it even more difficult to comprehend. Some years the minor premier plays on the Friday night. That happened to us in 2017 when minor premiers won our first game and we end up playing on the Friday night. So I'm not too sure why, and it's probably probably not the time to ask the question now, but certainly at the end of the year, I think it's if it's not us next year, it'll be someone else. I'm in total agreement with you. I think the minor premier or the highest ranked team should be definitely having the longest break between their semi-final, their preliminary final, and the grand final. But look, it is what it is. I think we still get 8 days rest if we do advance to it. So I think the most important thing we worry about, but is winning the prelim. I think if we worry too much about those type of things, we take our eye off the job and trying to beat either Parramatta or Penrith.
How do you manage everyone at the moment, Frank? Like, I know you guys take it 1 week at a time, as everyone in sport does, but the last couple of months, knowing that you were a good chance to get this deep into the year, how have, looking back and thinking about what the plans were versus how it's panned out, making sure everyone's cherry ripe and peaking at the right time?
Yeah, good question, that one, Sam. Look, I think there was a noticeable intensity lift by the squad last week in the first week of the finals. I think probably the last few weeks, I wouldn't say we've been going through the motions, but you could tell that once we knew that we had a top 2 spot more or less sewn up, and then we won the minor premiership, it certainly didn't have the same intensity. And last week it just went to another level. And I think playing a team like Manly, who are traditionally our rivals, but also more importantly, they've just been in such great form and getting a lot of press, and so they should, the way they've been playing. I just think these players have rise to challenges like this, and they did that. So, we're going to have another challenge next week. Obviously, if it's Penrith, it's the team that everyone expected us to play in the grand final again, and it's not going to happen, so that's a challenge in itself. And if Parramatta happen to win, which is very feasible, we've played Parramatta twice this year and lost twice. They're the only team we haven't beaten this year, so we've got a challenge either way, whether it's Penrith or Parramatta. And I think the challenge is what lifts the players. They really rise to the challenge, and I said, and then I started with the first final last week.
We're talking to Frank Panisi, mastermind, as Sam McClure said, behind the success of the Melbourne Storm for about the last 38 years.
Jared goes with Godfather, Beaver, so
Godfather.
I thought I'd go with something else, yeah.
Frank, more good news over the last week is that the coaching structure around Craig has all been locked in for the foreseeable future with the 4 assistant coaches. This is almost a big picture question. Is Stephen Kearney the most obvious choice as the heir apparent when Craig eventually does decide to step away from the head coaching position?
Oh, first of all, I'm glad you mentioned that, Bruce, because it's something that obviously, given Craig's status, and obviously, and so he should get an enormous amount of credit for what he's done over a long period of time. But he's got a wonderful team behind him, and Mark Brenton or Stephen Kearney, as you mentioned, Ryan Hinchcliffe and Aaron Bellamy, they've done a wonderful job for a number of years now. They really help him, come up with a game plan and develop the players. In terms of, look, Stephen's had his opportunities head coach. Whether Stephen wants to be a head coach, that's probably is debatable. I think he's doing a fantastic job as an assistant coach, mentoring the other young coaches and also mentoring the young players. And he also runs our leadership program. So he's very content. So, look, it's something that we haven't really spoken about. I think when the time does come, we'll look at our current coaches and former coaches at the club to see who could one day replace Craig. But in the meantime, it's not even discussion. I think I personally think Craig's still got a few more years left as head coach, and when he does let us know that he's finished up, well, that's when we'll probably look at it a bit more seriously.
Hey, Frank, before we let you go, I love hearing stories about a good spray, and I see that Cam Munster talked about one of the coach's sprays, as well as a few other things had been crucial in his career, and he celebrated his milestone of the 150th game with the club. How many sprays would you see sort of per year from Craig, do you think?
Well, if you take the sprays away with Cameron Munster, probably not too many these days. Most of them Cameron Munster.
So Cam gets under the skin of the coach, I take it.
He gets under a few people's skin, old Munster. So, no, look, I think in terms of the sprays, Craig's far more held back than he used to be. I think that the sprays now are very far and few, but when they do come, they still haven't lost their intensity or their desire. So, but yeah, I think Cameron's, and that's the beauty of players, and someone like Cameron, when they get one, they know it is deserved, and they take it really well, and more importantly, they act upon it. So I think that's the secret of Craig's coaching.
Frank, we've been following the journey of the Melbourne Storm all the way through the season, and we're right behind you as you continue on this amazing journey. Good luck for that prelim. We'll speak to you after.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Bruce.
Frank Panisi there, the boss of the Melbourne Storm, Beaver, who every week when we talk to Frank, it still amazes me how good that sporting organisation has been for so long.
Took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say there's many good sporting organisations right around the country in terms of not just the winter codes, but the summer codes. And
who else would be in that? We're going to get wound up by Benny, the producer here, but who else would be in the conversation the last 20 years have been as well run and as successful? I mean, Hawthorn for a while, but they didn't do it for the length of tenure that the Storm have.
What about the Perth Wildcats?
Yeah, the Wildcats is a great one. What do they make, 36 final series in a row?
Something like that. You'd still put the Storm on top of the mountain, though, wouldn't you? They have been simply unbelievable in a market, not a hostile market. We love them here in Melbourne, but I don't think they've been done or given all that many favours and leg ups from certain sectors in Sydney.
No, let's be honest, they're hated north.
Correct. Yeah, you were a little more blunt than me there, Sammy.
Let's be blunt with Grant Birchall as well, because he has been an absolute... Well, he's been a premiership icon if you go by numbers. Retiring Lion, a 4-time premiership Hawk. And Grant Birchall is going to join us next on Sports Day.